it's really important for us to make sure that our students and our children who have hearing loss have this education of kind of some travel hacks, because our students grow up to be adults. And where do they learn these things from? Welcome to the Online Itinerant's YouTube channel. The Online Itinerant exists to help lighten your load when it comes to meeting the needs of DHH students. Make sure to click subscribe to get trainings that will help reduce the time that you spend at your computer, allowing you more time at home with your family and friends, all while having a greater impact on your deaf and hard of hearing students. So I am excited to talk about traveling. I want to challenge all of you for these next couple weeks to spend time talking to your students. And if you are a parent of a child who has a hearing loss, talking to your children about traveling and what that means for them and some of these hacks for them as travelers. And in fact, if you are a parent with a child with hearing loss and you are traveling, I really encourage you to kind of allow your child to take the lead on some of these things and maybe navigate the airport or plug into the loop system or download the apps that we're going to talk about, and have them kind of take it over if they can. And if not, you help them learn how to do it so that in the future they can do this. So this is the biggest pro tip there is. And that is to plan ahead. Let's do it lots of time ahead of time, because that is where the magic lies. If you've got anybody who's flying on an airplane, get the Airline app. Download it now on their phones. Find out what are the plans? What's the itinerary? And again, this is fantastic for our students as well, because oftentimes they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know where they're going. I've got a friend, a dear friend of mine that talks about, he's a signer. And he talks about his parents put him in the car and he thought he was going to grandma and grandpa's house, which was like 20 minutes away. And they drove for 7 hours and he had no idea where they were going. And they ended up at Disneyland. And he was shocked. He had no idea that he was going there. And he was confused and he was worried. And that actually caused some anxiety for him. And there he was at Disneyland. So, it's really important that families are able to talk to their children, explain to them where they're going and what their plans are going to do. Find out if any of the museums that people are visiting or places that they're going to offer guided tours or have a loop system. By the way, Disney is very, very, very accessible. I think we could probably have a whole training on access that Disney has, but that's not tonight. But just if anybody does do Disney, just know that they have all kinds of things that they do that make the park accessible for kids and families who have hearing loss. Hotels may have flashing door alerts, but you have to let them know ahead of time that they might need that. Again, parents, you probably aren't thinking about this for your child because you're thinking, well, I'm in the room with them, so why would we need that? But the truth is, how will they learn that that's important? And how will they learn how to do that? So just like we want all of our children to have modeled for them what they will do as they get older, that's important for our students with hearing loss as well. So even if you are going to be with your child in the hotels, ask for flashing door alerts for your hotel room and make sure that you show it to the child. Okay. And then this was a great tip that I got from a deaf friend, and that is get AirTags. So AirTags are these, and there's the AirTag, I think technically is an Apple product, but there's an equivalence. And it's kind of like a little GPS system. So if anything is lost, you can call it up on your phone, find my whatever it is, and you can locate it. So this is great. I really recommend that students put it on their well, of course, their carry-on bag, but also if they have a pouch that has like any of their hearing aid equipment in it, put it in there so that they can find their stuff. Yeah, Tile. Shirley just put in the chat. Tile is the other one. And I think there's some off brands too that have them. So definitely a really easy thing to get. They're not expensive. They're inexpensive and very easy. Put them on anything that is important. And then again, this planning ahead thing, request interpreters or captioning for cruise boat shows, activities. This is another big one that Disney provides. So just you have to think ahead. What are we doing? And let me contact them and let's see what accessibility features we can get. So pro tip number one, plan ahead. Packing tips for our students. All right, so tip number one, do not pack hearing equipment into your checked bag. So you want all hearing equipment you want to put on a carry-on. So that includes batteries, that includes accessories, that includes cleaning stuff, anything like that. For one, if you check your bag, oftentimes it could get lost. And now you are without your hearing equipment. But for two, you're not supposed to have any of those rechargeable batteries on checked luggage. Any battery, like rechargeable batteries or anything that plugs in to charge, we want those inside of the carry-ons. We don't want those in the checked bag. You also want to make sure that you are packing extra rechargeable batteries. Can you guys tell that sometimes I make these PowerPoints quickly and I don't always, the spell check doesn't always come up? So embarrassing for me, but it is absolutely something that happens all the time. In any case, forgive any typos that I have. You want to pack extra rechargeable batteries, charging cords, chargers, pack extras of everything. And if if your students have, if your children have extra hearing aids, old backup hearing aids, pack them. Because I can't tell you how often I've heard something happened, they broke, they got wet and they quit working, I lost them, anything like that. So if you've got a backup pair, I encourage packing them and bringing them. Um, to have an extra case for hearing aids with your name and contact information on it, or at least on your case, make sure that you label that stuff. You want to make sure this is really important to work with your students and your families, is we do not want any hearing aids going in pockets when you're traveling. And our students do that, right? They take them out, they're in the pockets. We don't want any hearing aids or any hearing technology lost while we're on the road, while we're traveling. So that's where I say get an extra box or a case, put name and contact information on there so that if something happens and it gets lost, then there is a way to be contacted. And also that's a great place to put that air tag or that tile. Of course, extra hearing aids, remote microphones, which are great for tours, and a communication card. I'm going to show you one, but a communication card that says, I have a hearing loss, and maybe some communication tips or anything like that. But also, if you have a student that's traveling to a different country, to a foreign country that doesn't speak English, then to get that card in that foreign language. And so you can actually make one of those, or you can Google. So you can actually put that in chat these days, and you could say, please put this in. I would be hesitant to say put this into Spanish. I wouldn't do that in chat. If you have played around with chat, chat makes a lot of errors. But if you go to Google Translate, then you could do that and make one up. And then of course a travel alarm clock. A lot of people are using Apple Watches, but definitely for them to pack something that's going to be able to wake them up. Oh, great. And Heather she put in here for when we're booking the flight to select deaf or hard of hearing on the flight, when that is going to be our next thing I think that we've got on here. Yeah, flying. Okay. So as Heather pointed out in the chat, really fantastic and important to select deaf and hard of hearing when booking the flight. And again, even if you're a family member and you're traveling with a child, go ahead and book that. And I would even show it to your child when you're doing it so that they know that that's something that can be checked and that that's available to them. And then once we get to the gate, you also want to communicate with them and say, I have a hearing loss, communicate that with them and let them know who that person is that has a hearing loss, because otherwise they don't know which consumer it is. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Once you get to the airport, there's kind of a lot of anxiety that can come with that because you have to go through security. So this causes a lot of confusion for people. A lot of people think that they need to take their devices off to go through the security. Um, you do not. Those devices can stay on. You don't need to turn them off. You don't need to do anything, but it is very valuable to point and let people know that you have a device as you are walking through. You also do not need to take them off your ears and put them through any type of x-ray system or anything like that. In fact, we don't want you to do that because for one thing, those things can roll around, they can get lost. If they're on just a rubber mat, I think there are still some devices that rubber can create some static that could, mess with the mapping of a CI or anything like that. But they don't need to go through any security scan. They can stay on, the devices can stay on. And if they need to get scanned for any reason, then you can just make sure people know what they are, take them off, and then they can take a look at it. But then when you're flying again, we want to make sure that you have the airport app. And again, really important for your students as they are learning these skills so that someday when they are traveling on their own, they know exactly what to do. It's very nice. The airport apps tell you when there's been a gate change. So the app will come up and it will give you that text message letting you know that there's been a gate change, letting you know when it's time to board, letting you know all of that, which is wonderful. No longer do you have to try to listen for the gate for the person at the table or at the desk to communicate that to you, but you can get those text alerts through the app. But very valuable when you go up to the gate, again, to mention that you have a hearing loss. Now, in the training, Tina Childress talks about this, and I think it's so, so valuable. There is value. When she goes, now, if you've heard Tina chat, if you've heard her talk before, she's got cochlear implants. She speaks as though she has no hearing loss at all. You would never know she had a hearing loss if you were just talking with her. And because of that, people don't recognize that she has a hearing loss. So she often chooses to go deaf when she is traveling. She actually takes off her devices. She doesn't talk. She shows people, she puts it on her phone, I am deaf. And what happens when that happens? That makes them, it points out in their brain, this person has a hearing loss. I need to make sure that I'm gesturing to them. I need to take an extra second and make sure that they are getting the message that I want to make sure that they have. And it takes it off of her and it naturally puts it on them. Now, many of my students are not yet comfortable in that. Many of my students are not yet comfortable even saying I have a hearing loss or just kind of turning off their voice and not communicating in that way. But it's really, really valuable to be able to share that story and be able to share that exchange of burden of communication so that other people recognize the value in communicating with you. I'm happy that this is coming up because I have this conversation oftentimes with my students who are wearing hearing aids and they don't want anybody to know that they have hearing aids. And I will often point out that when people know that you have hearing aids, then they recognize that you are not hearing something when you're not hearing something, or they recognize that you've misheard something and they make the association of why, versus the new invisible hearing aids that are coming out, which are pretty incredible, or they are out. But when you wear invisible hearing aids, nobody knows that you have a hearing loss. So then if you are missing something and you have a gap in communication, they don't understand why, and they don't understand that that could happen. So there is absolutely value in people knowing that you have that hearing loss. And this is a great time to talk about the term self-disclosure, right? That's where you disclose that information. Some people don't want to, but there's value in doing it so that you can get the information that you need. So oftentimes when you've gotten your ticket and you've checked that you have a hearing loss, you inform the gate agents of your hearing loss, then you are eligible to pre-board and you can pre-board early. This is kind of nice. It's a little bit of a safety thing. You don't have to worry about people talking to you behind you or trying to explain anything and you missing that communication. You can board the flight just before anybody else, and then you've got that quieter environment where you just have that easier communication if the flight attendants or anybody wants to talk to you. Um, when they are taking off in the airplane and they say, please turn off all of your electronics, you do not need to turn off your hearing aids. You do not need to turn off your CIs. Those stay on the entire flight. They don't have any interference with what's happening up in the cockpit or anything like that. So those will stay on. And the new technology inside the airplanes, the last number of times that I have flown, they don't even have videos inside the seats. They just expect you to pull it up, to the movies, pull it up on your phone. Which, if you have Bluetooth to your hearing aids, then that makes the videos really accessible to you because then you can just Bluetooth it automatically. Okay. TSA actually has a card that you can show as you are going through so that they know that you have a condition such as hearing loss, and you can show that to them. And also, oftentimes the hearing aid companies or the CI companies come with little cards that you can share when you travel as well. So Tammy says, are all people with hearing loss, regardless of degree, eligible to pre-board? That's a great question. I think that when you tell them that you have a hearing loss, I don't think they ask any type of degree or anything like that. I think that you just are able to board. They may not even ID you to do that, especially if you have that little card that says that you've got hearing loss. Thank you to Triumph Consulting who shared this. I just learned about it. This is so cool. There are major airports that actually allow you to practice going to the airport, and they actually have this mock experience that you can go in and they organize it. It's organized, and it has been organized largely through with autism efforts to be able to support kids that have autism because airports have just so much stimuli. So these are the major airports that I understand have this type of simulation or practice. Minneapolis has it, Hartsfield, Jackson, and Atlanta, Denver International Airport, Washington Dulles, and then even some smaller airports, Syracuse, and Dane County in Madison, Appleton in Wisconsin. So these are a couple Wisconsin airports. I'm really excited to hear that. Rhode Island, TF Green Airport, Bradley International Airport in Hartford, Connecticut, and Oakland International Airport. Let me just show you what this looks like. So this is the Minneapolis website. So this is the program that they have, and you show up. It's not an online thing. You go and you register for it, and they let you practice the screening procedures. You get to explore the terminal, board the airplane and meet the pilot, prepare for takeoff. So they sit you down and buckle you up, and you just kind of practice that so that it's not so scary. And Minneapolis, I believe, yeah, has a social story here. It was created under the initiative of working with students who have autism, but it's not exclusively for that population. It's great for anybody who has any type of travel anxiety or just needs to prepare for that travel experience. So you can check and see what if your airport has any of these types of activities. And oh, actually, so if you are in the Minneapolis area, here are the dates. So if you're flying from Minneapolis, they've got one of these on March 7th and on April 11th. So that may fall over some close to any travel for you. And then of course, May and June. So they've got one a month. So they prioritize the people who have flights coming up soon. All right. Okay, so this might be some new information for some of you because it's something that I have learned recently. We've been talking quite a bit about the phone apps and settings and about live transcribe and live captions. So that was a topic that we had last week when we were talking about updated technology. So this is an accessibility feature that's on the phone. And with the new app updates, it's pretty darn good. And you get this when you have it on your phone, you can have it just on here for you. And it's very easy to access, and you can just push the little bubble and it will transcribe for you. And be able, and it does a nice job. And actually mine just disappeared. I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. Okay, so let me turn my let me make sure that you can see this. Okay, so I have a little bubble right here. I'm going to make this nice and big, and it will transcribe it for me. So this is really nice if you need to, if your students or your children are going somewhere and there is any type of setting, conversation inside of a restaurant, if it's quiet enough, or if they are listening to a tour, anything like that, that they would benefit from captions, this is a feature that you could try. Google Translate, of course, if there's any traveling to a place that has a different language that they're speaking, that's a great way to be able to translate. This is something that that might be new to you. Tunity. Anybody familiar with Tunity? So this is an app. You can search it in the App Store. And what this does is actually, I've been showing this to my students and they've been loving it because everybody wants it and anybody can use it. And it's, the thing that our students struggle with is that they don't want to be different, right? They don't want to be different. But when everybody wants to have what they have, and when everybody is getting the same app that they have access to, then that helps them feel they really like that. Tunity is anytime you have a TV that is muted and maybe there's no captioning on or you are not under, you can't hear it. So this is oftentimes in restaurants and airports, in bars. When I get my nails done, they have the TV on, but you don't have any audio. You can you through Tunity, you can scan the TV show and it will find out what channel it's on, and then it will put the audio it'll Bluetooth the audio into your hearing aid or into your AirPods so that you can listen to the channel even though there's no volume coming out of it. So that is called Tunity. And SoundPrint is it tells you how loud a place is. So it has an audio meter in here that will tell you how loud, how many decibels it is. But what it also does is you can search for a quiet restaurant and you can make a choice of what restaurant you want to go to based on how loud that restaurant is. So let me just find this for you real quick. So this is the app. So I can see how loud it is, and it will measure how loud an area is. And then what happens is if you're in a public place, then it will save that setting so then other people can know how loud it is in that place. But you can search for where you are, and it will tell you like what restaurants are around and what the volume is at those restaurants. I was shocked at how many restaurants in my own town. So, as you know, many of you know, I live in central Wisconsin. So I'm not in a metropolitan area, but in central Wisconsin, all of these restaurants are on here, and you can tell based on the color how loud it is. So, at Texas Roadhouse, it is moderately loud right now. But at a restaurant down the road called the Wausau Mine Company, it is quiet right now, and it actually tells you the volume, the audio. So here, can you guys see that? So why is this helpful? Well, if you're planning to go out to eat somewhere and you can kind of get a more quiet environment for your student. So I love that. All right. And of course, we need to know that AuraCast is coming. We've had some great conversations about AuraCast, and that is going to be changing a lot of this in the near future. All right, let's talk about cruising. Of course, this is a hot topic on my mind lately because the online itinerant is preparing for our deaf education conference and cruise. So, for those of you who are joining us, who have already signed up or planning to sign up, go ahead and put that in the chat and say hi to each other because you're going to be seeing a lot of each other. Tina Childress is going to be on the ship with us, as well as Mama Who Hears. And Tina's going to be running around with all of her technology. So this is going to be a really fun way to like talk with her and actually see some of this stuff in action. I mean, what better way to learn from people than to just go and sit and be with them and watch them live their lives. So on a cruise ship, you can request interpreters and you can request captioning. Tina's experience has been that you have to push for captioning sometimes. They may not automatically offer that. So you may have to push for it, but they do and should and will provide it. It is legally they have to, and they do, but you sometimes may have to push for that a little bit. They have room accessibility kits. So again, if somebody knocks on the door, then it'll have the flashing light. But you do want to plan ahead. You do not want to show up on the cruise ship and say, oh, by the way, I have this accessibility need. You want to let them know at least 6 weeks in advance about this. A lot of their big rooms with their shows are looped. So if you're not familiar with that term, that means that there's a setting on the hearing aid. It's kind of like having a Roger system or a DM system that the audio will then go directly into your ears. So they have that as well. But you will want to connect with the cruise ship and let them know ahead of time that you are planning on coming. And here we go. So, how can you learn more about this? So, for those of you who are members of the Professional Academy, this is the training that is inside the Academy. There is a number of trainings that are focused on self-advocacy and self-advocacy. Okay, so here are our, and transition, there we go. So here are our buckets of trainings that are inside. This is the Professional Academy. Parents have one that look very similar to this, but they both have this section called Self-Advocacy and Transition. And inside of here, there are a number of great trainings with more trainings coming, but this is the one from Tina about travel tips for deaf and hard of hearing students and individuals. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you watch this training with your students. Like bring it in, turn it on. Now you can see that these are done in micro modules. So really short, 7 minutes, 19 minutes, 7 minutes. So you can kind of pick what section you want to listen to. But this is really great to start pouring into your students and having them watch it and talk about these bullet points with them. And I would say, regardless of the age, start in kindergarten, have the conversations, and also as well with family members. Again, this is really, really valuable. Family members don't know, and often they will just sort of take charge of that, and then their child just kind of leans on that. But then next thing you know, their child is grown, and we want to make sure that their child has these skills and knows about them. So that is my challenge to you, is to actually teach it to your students, make sure that parents have the information and that they know about it and that they can start pouring into this with their kids as soon as they can. It's never too young to start showing how to do that. And we didn't touch too much on hotels or anything like that. I would say for sure check out the training that is inside to be able to get some more tips, including what not to do, hotels and some other places, trains, other places that you can travel to that have accessibility options. Make sure you check out that information as well. That's all inside the training. And this is just one of many hacks. If you want to keep up with hacks every single week, click subscribe and you'll get a notification when a new hack has been added to this library.